Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown and episode 3 of our weekly look at the world of American football. It's been a busy weekend in the sport from NFL Divisional games, Flag New Year in Scotland and the USA World Championships for Flag in Tampa. We're going to have a chat through all the key points of these and have a look forward to the NFL Conference Championships games this weekend coming. I can't do all that myself because you get fed up listening to my voice, so I've got two fine panelists joining me on this week's show. First up is a fellow NFC East fan that, like me, is looking at the NFC Championship game and thinking, that could be us. Well, actually, not in his case because he's a Giants fan, but it's Gav. How are you, Gav?
I'm pretty good, Dan, although I think it's the Cowboys have now the longest drought for this game, so we'll see. But it's been really good action packed weekend, both obviously in the divisional round, but also actually getting to see some of the flag action a bit closer to home. So really looking forward to chatting about it.
Yeah, before Gav puts a knife in, the Cowboys are now the only team that has not been to the NFC Championship game since 2010. Every other team in the NFC has been at the Championship game since 2010, apart from the Cowboys. So yes, thanks, Gav. Next up, we have our first ever guest on the Tartan Touchdown episodes. Gav and Sarah have done it, the three of us done it. We have brought a guest on, although he is no stranger to us. They say a woman has a dress for every occasion. However, this guy's got a kilt for every occasion. Join us from the Gridiron crew. It's the Kilted Texan. Graham, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you for having us on this. Great to see you again and have a chat about some ball.
Excellent, guys. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Well, folks, we're just going to get straight into it and we're going to address this huge burgundy and gold elephant that's in the room this weekend. The Washington Commanders beat the Detroit Lions are in the NFC Championship game. Gav, how did this happen?
Well, I think it's fair to say this is one that nobody saw coming. And I mean, I say this as someone that has seen the Giants go and beat a 15-win team in the divisional round on the road. I mean, we did a poll this week leading up to the game, and I think we had like 4 or 5% of people took the Commanders to win. And not only did they win, but I mean, they were just running the clock out in absolute silence at Ford Field. We knew that the Lions obviously had their injury worries, but this was an absolute stunner, and it was deserved.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, I watched it back, and I was just like, when I was watching the highlights, I'm thinking, you see how long's left in the highlights. I'm thinking, that's like the Lions have got plenty of time. The Lions are going to come back. The Lions are going to come back. And eventually, I was like, the Lions aren't coming back here. This is just ridiculous. I mean, some of the stat lines, Jaden Daniels, what a player he's turned out to be. 299 yards for 2 touchdowns, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions, 22 of 31 and a passer rate in 100, basically 123. Jaden Daniels basically played the perfect game, Graham, didn't he?
Completely. I was speaking. I was on one of the crew shows for the preview of this game, and me and Studs both actually picked the Commanders to win this game.
Good.
Thought the upset could be on, just with the way that they play. Like, Daniels is playing on another level for being a rookie in these situations in the NFL. Seems absolutely fearless. Doesn't seem like he gets ruffled very often. Just another level to go into such a hostile environment. But I think we're having less pressure probably on you than the Lions had.
Yeah.
Played a big key in it, as well as like injuries and other things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just know obviously from last year for Dan Quinn being our defensive coordinator, he would have had that team fired right up, locked right in the whole nobody expects us to win attitude, basically siege mentality. I say this, Gavin, on our group chat, the Commanders just played the perfect game. They couldn't have asked to have played any better. If they had played like that and lost, they'd have put their hands up and went, we gave it our best shot and we've lost. They basically were perfection, weren't they, Gav?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess, you've got to look at both sides of the ball here because Jane Daniels is doing things that never really been seen before. I think that's now back-to-back 300-yard games for a rookie quarterback in the postseason. But if we then look at the other side of the ball, 6 turnovers from the Lions now. We have seen them recover from 5 during the regular season, but this is a step up, and you cannot be giving the ball away, both field position, but also momentum and even points. So obviously Jared Goff throwing the pick 6. So I think he had 5 of the turnovers against him, and Jameson Williams actually threw another on a trick play, which obviously has been one of the hallmarks of the Lions. They've got they've got a show reel of trick plays this season, but maybe a lot of people didn't feel it was the right time to be doing that when you're lagging.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably, I don't know, count out maybe 1 or 2 trick plays per game, but it got to the point in this game I feel like they were just trying trick plays just all the time. I feel as if I've seen more in this game than I've seen in any other game this season. I mean, the one to Williams, like, you're chasing the game at that point. You just need to keep it simple. Yeah, throw a trick play's fine, but at that point in the game, you really want the ball in your hands, your quarterback, Graham, don't you?
I think so. Could there have been like a slight overconfidence in that? Because they've been such an offensive powerhouse that they probably thought they could just do whatever they wanted at any time. And like Gav said, the turnovers are key here. And they overcome 5 picks, I think, Goff had against the Texans? Yep. And they managed to overcome that. And even on the sidelines, they would have probably been saying, look, we've been here before, we've given up all these, we'll just come back and we'll come back. But the Commanders are a very different team to that Texans team. Like, the fact that they rarely punt, they're not scared to go for it on any down. These are all key factors to how that can go wrong. But yeah, you want it in the hands of the guy that you're paying all that money for to be the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, any team that's got a defensive coordinator like Dan Quinn's going to be solid. Never mind having him as your head coach as well. I mean, the Commanders have been absolutely solid. I know their stats maybe don't, but you just know that as a defence that is up for the fight and they'll not take anything lying down. So fair play to the Commanders for it. One player who has impressed me last week, and I never got a chance to speak about him, and he impressed me again, was De'Ami Brown for the Commanders. He's just come out of nowhere. So I looked at his stats earlier on, so we're pulling back. So the regular season, he had 30 catches for 300 yards on 40 targets. That was him the whole regular season. In the postseason, 11 from 13 for 187 yards in 2 games. It's just, I mean, I had never heard of him until kind of this season in terms of what he could do, but he has been phenomenal for the Commanders. Zacchaeus as well as another wide receiver that stepped up for them as well. So obviously they've always had the claw in there. But having those 2 receivers to step up and give Jaden Daniels other options has been key, Gav, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can obviously we all talk about the success of Jaden Daniels, but you can't do that without weapons to throw to. And I'd say Brown's obviously really stepped up in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Terry McLaurin been a big part of the Redskins' success as well. And sometimes you've had a guy that's been quiet for a long stretch, but it's just right place, right time. You've got all these different pieces in the team finally starting to come together.
Yeah. And who knew that virtual reality could be the thing that could drive the Commanders to an NFC Championship game? Have you seen this game with Jaden Daniels and his virtual reality?
No.
So I'll try and not digress too much for people who are watching and listening. So when Jaden Daniels was at LSU, he was struggling. He had a bit of a bad season, and a VR company emailed LSU basically said to them, look, we've got this idea that we want to try out. Basically, a VR headset. You can upload all your plays into it. You can upload defensive schemes into it. The quarterback, basically a simulator. The quarterback puts it on, and they can basically see everything through the VR headset so he can prepare himself for the game. So he done it in LSU, and his next season we won the Heisman, right? So they're saying that made a massive difference. But what Jaden Daniels now is doing is he is using this VR, and the defence is coming at him at 1.75 times the speed they would normally go at. So he's seeing everything faster on the VR. So when it comes to game day, it all looks slow. So when somebody's rushing him, when he's using the VR, he's used to them coming at him at faster speed than they actually physically can. So when it happens on the game day, everything feels like it's in slow motion for him. It's ridiculous. And apparently, when Daniels was getting drafted, the one stipulation he had, whoever drafted him, had to buy into this technology and bring it with them. And the Commander's like, of course we'll do it. It's just crazy.
They're reaping the rewards. They're reaping the rewards.
Oh, massively. So for anybody that's not seen it, it's all over. If you just go and Google Jaden Daniels VR, you'll see the whole story behind it. I've kind of gave you the abridged version of it, but it's phenomenal. It shows you what it can do and all that. It's mental.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that coaches always talk about. I think in any sport is this concept of harder than the game. If you train, if you put constraints and limitations on your players in training, then that's the idea. By the time you come to game time, it's going to be easy. But one of the challenges you have, particularly in the NFL, is, of course, you don't want your quarterback taking hits. You can't have a real D-line charging at you over and over, not just to protect the quarterback, but actually because the amount of snaps that any of the players can take in training. So if you can use something like technology to give yourself those extra reps, even if they're really just mental reps, then it's obviously something that's going to give you the advantage coming game day.
Yeah, I think it's something like it takes a couple 100 reps per training day just on VR, just every day on top of the normal reps they do in training. He gets a headset and he takes a couple hundred. Obviously, it's like they customise it to whoever their opponent's going to be and what defensive scheme they tend to play the most and stuff like that. It's unbelievable, and it seems to have made a massive difference to him. So I recommend going away and looking at it and reading it. So anyway, let's move on from the Commanders and the Lions. So we'll stick with the NFC for now. I know the games are different days, but we'll stick with the NFC just for consistency. So with the Eagles and the Rams, a story of 200 quarterbacks and Saquon Barkley. I genuinely thought the Rams had the momentum at the end, and I thought they were going to go and do it. I was hoping they were going to go and do it for obvious reasons of it being the Eagles, but ultimately the Eagles managed to hold on for the win. What's your reflections of this game, Graham?
This one was it was a bit of a to and fro slobber knocker, wasn't it? At one point, I think when the snow come down, that definitely added an extra element because you start to see certain people struggling with holding on to the ball, and you're right, Dan. Right at the end, I was in your camp there. I thought the Rams were just gonna take it down and punch it in because they start to move, and I think the commentary team highlighted it. Was when they went to that hurry up offense.
Yeah.
They didn't let the defense sub. They looked gassed, and Stafford was just slinging that ball, and he's got the arm strength to fire it through any sort of wind and that. But they just seemed to slow down right at the end, and that allowed a few subs in.
Yeah.
Which I think gave it the opportunity for the Eagles just to get their defense sorted on that last drive and kill it. But I actually really enjoyed this game, and I'm not a fan of watching the Eagles play. I just I don't know what it is. It's maybe just an old thing or whatever. But when you see Barkley breaking off that big runs and that, how can't you not like that style of play?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of needle in the game as well.
Yeah, it was.
Plenty of needle.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you mentioned about slowing down, they get a false start penalty. And that just allowed the Eagles to then substitute. And that moment, it just killed them. Obviously, it took them back to 5 yards, but it just allowed the Eagles to make the substitutions because I think they said in commentary that the line were rushing, but they were obviously coming slower because they're just knackered. And the huddle, the offense, no huddle was working, and then stupid false start penalty allowed the Eagles to regroup, and it kind of gave the Eagles a chance to kind of solidify themselves again and hold on for the win. But one of the key things I thought of this game, we mentioned it, Gavin, in our chat, that Stafford got injured, I think it was in the first half, but you could really see he couldn't move, he wasn't getting the ball out quick enough, and it was a rib injury they had. I think that made a massive difference to the game. Gav, what's your thoughts?
It's really tricky to say because I think the Rams struggled for a long stretch really through the middle of that game. Yeah. But having said that, when it came to down the stretch, being able to mount the touchdown drive and then almost driving for the win, obviously it didn't quite pan out. Is anyone other than Stafford going to do that? So I think absolutely, did the injury impact the Rams? Yes. But were they right to keep him in? Probably. I think they had to stick with him.
Yeah, I did say at one point he was really struggling at one point, and I said they're going to lose this game if they keep him in because he couldn't move. He was just getting sacked consistently, and the line was getting to him, and he couldn't move quick enough to get either away from him or get the ball out. And you could see that it was because of his mobility. And I did say to you guys, get him out because they're going to lose the game. Obviously, they kept him in, and they nearly did win it. And for some reason, it seemed to be a miraculous recovery in that last drive. I don't know if it was just adrenaline or whatever, because it came back to Matthew Stafford that we knew just for that final drive. So they were unlucky to come up short. Like you mentioned, Graham Barkley, that a big touchdown. Was it 76 yards, was it? Or 78 yards?
8 yards, yeah.
That just killed it. I thought that killed it for the Rams, but obviously they almost made it. But I did text you guys to say that's the game at that point because I thought the Rams, because of the way they were playing, weren't coming back. But you noticed in the video, Gav, that they shared that Barkley had a wee word with Jalen Hurts just right before the snap, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's one that they caught on TV right away. Just glances over to Hurts and says, "I've got this." Like, when you know Saquon saying that, it's an ominous thing. And it's funny because I actually thought that the Eagles were going to actually put the game away just by milking the clock. Like, I had that feeling that they'd been doing enough just in terms of building the long drives to put the game away. And actually, when you think about it and compared to some of the previous games, so Saquon actually took the slide last week against the Packers. And actually, that's an interesting question there. You can see the opposites happen this week. He's obviously felt, we've got this game in the bag. I'm going to run, put the game away. And actually, despite putting the Eagles up 2 scores, it gave the chance for the Rams to come back.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned there about Bartley there, so he was 26 carries for 205 yards, averaged 8 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns, so there's nothing else we can say about this guy. He's just an absolute phenomenon, isn't he, Graham?
Yeah, what was he? Is that 50 yards shy of their first meeting when he was on the ground?
That's something crazy, isn't it?
250 something. So they never really found a way to slow him down at all. And I think there was a huge suck of air by the Eagles fans when Barkley went down with what looked like a wrist injury at one point.
Oh yeah, the helmet to the wrist, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to strap him up, and there was a collective sigh or gasp when that happened. And when the guy's averaging 8 yards a carry, you're if you're just feeding him, you're never really looking at third and long, or fourth down situations.
I think the interesting thing with Barkley's stats, so you actually say about finding a way to stop him. So he had the 205 yards for the entirety of the game. So 26 carries overall. 2 of them went for 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. The other 24, he averaged 2.7 yards per attempt. But I think that shows a lot about Saquon, obviously, just that he always has that in him to deliver those home run explosive plays. But I think just generally in the playoffs, there is a lesson here that if you want to win in the postseason, you really do need to be as close to perfect as you can be, because it doesn't take a lot to swing the match.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon Barkley, Graham, he's a guy, if you had him on your team, you would never let him go, would you?
Well, if we'd come up with an extra million, we would have probably been able to get him off of you, or off of Gav, sorry. But
we'll come to that later.
we probably will come back to him, but I'm going to say, when Saquon left, I said best luck in your future endeavours. And I did genuinely mean that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who will say that the Giants must be looking at this and thought, look at what you've lost. But I would probably turn around and say, look at what we failed to achieve with Saquon over the 6 years prior. I don't think he's rushing for 2,000 yards if he's in New York. I don't think the Giants are registering a winning season, even if he was there. So I think, fair play to him. He's gone to the Eagles, and, he's just absolutely smashed it this season.
It definitely wasn't a move for money. You can tell he wanted the success, and probably why he picked the Eagles. But like you said, Gav, even if the Giants had offered him more money, would he have stayed? Probably not, because that wasn't his money wasn't his motivation. It was to go and try and win a Super Bowl, and he knew, not despising Gav, but he knew that wasn't going to happen with the Giants. So fair play to him, and he's given us all many highlight reels this season. So let's see if that. Let's hope that doesn't continue.
But you can never really, you can't. There's certain issues like that when like Saquon moves on, that you can't really hold it against the guy. Like, has the Cowboys not got 2 ex-coordinators that are currently staring down the Super Bowl or whatever, And how was that success not achieved there? It's just players and coaches find different success in different teams because it's the right time for them all to be together, you know?
Yeah, my classic example of that is Baker Mayfield. And Jared Goff, to be fair, just find the right team and it all takes off with there, and that's what's happened with them. I will put my disclaimer in that I did say that we should have sacked Mike McCarthy and gave Dan Quinn the head coach's job last season, but clearly Jerry Jones didn't know a clue what he was talking about. To be fair, and you mentioned Kellen Moore, I know he's done great there, but I've never been a massive Kellen Moore play calling fan, to be fair, so I'm hoping he's not on his way back. Anyway, let's move over to the AFC now. So it was dubbed a Super Bowl match that could never happen in the battle of the league MVP contenders. My pre-season pick, I'm blowing my own trumpet a lot tonight, I apologise, folks. My pre-season picks of the Bills to win the Super Bowl and Josh Allen to get the MVP are still alive as they won 23-21 over the Ravens. Gav, did this game live up to its hype?
Yeah, we'll just do a quick score check. So get 27-25.
All right, 27-25.
For the Bills. But yeah, I think this was a game where I think it pretty much lived up to its billing. Obviously, I think key play, a lot of people are going to talk about Lamar Jackson and his record in the postseason. He did have the one turnover, but I think when we look at, I guess, some of the other key points in the game, it feels harsh to put it on him because he did get them down the field for that touchdown. He did put the ball on his receiver's hands for the tying conversion. Obviously, Mark Andrews couldn't come up with it. So in some ways, I guess if you're a neutral, you probably feel deprived of getting to see Josh Allen get one last goal to try and respond to that. I don't think anybody in Buffalo is going to be complaining that they could run the clock out in this one. And it was well deserved because the Bills started so strongly in this one. Particularly in Josh Allen in the first half, and that's the thing. It's a 60-minute game, and the Bills didn't play 60 minutes, but you're not that's you're never going to get it all your own way in a big game like this. But when you build that lead and you put the pressure on your opposition, then everything does need to fall right for Baltimore. But it was a hell of an encounter.
Yeah, I don't think it was much. I mean, you do think the Buffalo fans would have expected to get at halftime an 11-point lead. They were very good in that first half game, weren't they?
They were so aggressive on defense. I think it actually stunned the Ravens. Just how good they were at moving bodies and getting through to Lamar, causing issues downfield. I'm not saying that Baltimore strolled in there thinking it was going to be a walk, but I think Baltimore thought they were the bigger unit and could impose their will. That first couple of the tackles on Henry at the start of the game kind of put out the Bills' stall for me, that they weren't going to be a pushover in the run game. And wow, like, you don't often see Henry getting stuffed the way he was getting stuffed early on. They weren't even letting him get up to speed. Like, the schemes that were coming at the Ravens with, like, it had me shocked. I didn't expect that kind of initial opening at all. Yeah, so it was a good encounter. Have you seen some of the interviews that have come out? Like Lamar.
I've seen Lamar's. Yeah.
It can be taken the wrong way. Like, if it's taken in a snapshot, you think he's talking about Andrews, but I think he's actually ultimately talking about himself.
Yeah, I think he's talking about overall as a whole team. We keep making these mistakes, and he did come out and say, "Look, I think Jim Harbaugh came out and says we wouldn't be where we are without Mark Andrews." And Lamar Jackson said, "This is not on Lamar. This isn't on Mark Andrews. This is not his fault." And I think they did stick up from what you said that whole. But I think that was more a case of, as a team, the amount of drops or turnovers they've had on offense this season is not good enough. I think was it 3 last night they had. 2 fumbles and an interception. Basically, on that Bills defense, Bobby Barrett, the scheme that he came up for that game was ridiculous. Like, he was very aggressive, like, not even just on the run game, just full stop. They were tuned right in. Damar Hamlin, he had a great game. Every time I heard somebody tackling, they were kind of in the second, it was Damar Hamlin. It was Damar Hamlin constantly. And obviously Taylor Rapp got the interception as well, which, yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting, the Bills can be aggressive, but I was not expecting them to be that aggressive, especially at the line with Derrick Henry, because sometimes you're that aggressive at that point and you miss, you're done for. Henry breaks that, he's gone. I mean, they restricted him to 16 carries for 84 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry, 1 touchdown. His longest run was 17 yards, which for Derrick Henry's, we're used to seeing him breaking out, and that just shows you how aggressive the Bills were at stopping the run, Gav, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But the big thing for me is actually, you talk about all these key stats, and it does come back to turnovers, because ultimately the Ravens outgained Buffalo by almost 150 yards in this one. But when you're turning the ball over 3 times, the Bills, on the other hand, they don't cough it up at any point throughout the game. That's going to be a big factor in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the Ravens play, like, there was a lot of big long passes. Like, he got Isaiah Likely a couple of times wide open, Bateman for that he got into the touchdown, and then he got him again, pretty much identical play, but I think they stopped him on the 2-yard line. So there was a few big plays through the air for the Ravens, because obviously they realised that the run game wasn't going to work, so they had to go through the air. Because even Lamar Jackson only had 6 attempts at rushing, which is probably low for him, considering obviously they've seen what they've done to Henry. Don't want to put Lamar Jackson into that, get tackled by the guys that the way the Bills were playing. But overall, game, do you think it was a deserved win for the Bills?
I think so. Like, the Ravens heavily favoured in that game, and maybe that's just a mistake on my part, but I really thought they were going to come in and just boss that game completely, which they didn't do. You can say, it was the battle of the MVPs, although I don't think anything postseason really counts towards the voting on.
No, the votes closed last weekend, the commentators mentioned.
Yeah. So, but the Bills fully deserve to go through on that performance. Allen, solid, especially in that short gains. He's a big dude that just likes to stick his neck in there. You see him like down on the line of the goal line going in a couple of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, fully deserved by the Bills.
Yeah, so Allen had 10 rushes for 20 yards, and so he averaged 2 yards a rush, but still got 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah,
anytime like you get to, I think it was Tony Romo said last night, like anytime the Bills get to 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2, just give Josh Allen the ball. There was a couple of times where they did stop him, but generally the couple of plays they dialed up, they just left him wide open and walks through the offensive, the defensive lines and got the first down. So yeah, it was good to see. I think the Bills deserved. I was surprised as well. I'm not seeing how that 11-point lead at the half kind of surprised me. I was expecting a lot closer. Obviously, the Ravens came back in the third quarter, outscoring the Bills 9-0 in that second quarter, but third quarter, so brought them back into the game. But do you agree, Gav, deserved win for the Bills?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this is one where I'd also backed the Ravens, perhaps more with head than heart. I'm delighted to see that the Bills win, but I very much like Graham thought that it was going to be Baltimore that would just have the edge in this one. I think not Baltimore, Buffalo were prepared for this one. I think a lot was made of the weather. Obviously, we saw it in the Eagles-Rams game, and it didn't really becomes much of a factor in this one, but I think Buffalo had definitely prepared for this game. In the first half, I think Josh Allen only actually threw the ball 7 times in that first half because they were expecting the weather to be a factor, and I think that's why they were able to lean so heavily on their run game. Obviously, Josh Allen was getting a touchdown, but you had James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis all chipping in throughout the course of that game, and a big factor in that success.
Well, also you say that the Bills didn't have a receiving touchdown that whole game, so that shows you they had factored in that this was going to be a run first game, and obviously that's the way the Ravens probably prepare most weeks anyway. But it was interesting to see that, and James Cook did their first good quarter, came out and he was finding gaps and finding holes. So yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Bills definitely deserved it. Okay, one game left to go. So we had Graham's Texans up against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, Graham, having let it settle for a couple of days now, how can you look back at this game?
It'd be very easy for me to jump on the bandwagon and say that everything that led to us losing has something to do with officiating. But even at the time, yeah, some of the calls weren't great, but the Texans did a lot to shoot themselves in the foot in this game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't leave 7 points on special teams on the field. You're like when you looked at all the games, the Texans seem to have the least aggressive O-line out of all the games. Like, see, when I'm watching other teams playing, their O-line is moving bodies left, right, and centre, and we are just like, we can't move anyone anywhere. We can't block anyone. There just seems to be free passage to the quarterback all the time. It's just so frustrating. And it was that because like the line had been playing slightly better in the last couple of weeks, and then we put in Shaq. We put him back in. He's just come back off an injury and moved out Juice Scruggs. Should we have put Juice back in when we've seen that Shaq was struggling? Probably that might help with some things. But yeah, there was a lot that didn't happen for us, but could be maybe compounded a bit by some of the timings of some of the decisions that didn't go our way. That's all it is. It's the timings of them.
Yeah. As you mentioned there about your line, so CJ Stroud was sacked 8 times last night, and it did look like the Chiefs could just get through it well. George Karlaftis got 3 of the sacks. I think he was the one that kind of sack leader for that. Yeah, Karlaftis got 3. Mary Connor got 1. Charles Omenihu got 1, and Chris Jones got 1, and Felix Uzoma got 2 as well. So it wasn't just like as if one side of your O-line was struggling. Every one of those defensive linemen was getting through the CJ Stroud. So something obviously for his work on in the off season. But in terms of, obviously, you made the mention mistakes there about Fairbairn missing the kicks and stuff like that as well. So there was a lot of, I think, taking away, we'll talk about the referee decisions in a minute. I think this game was here for the Texans to go and win, and they just didn't. I mean, the Chiefs, 23 points for the Chiefs. Most teams at that point, I know the Chiefs have been low scoring this season, but the Chiefs were there for the taking. I think last night, if the mistakes had just been cut out and you'd maybe protected CJ Stroud a bit better, that game was there for the win, wasn't it?
Completely. there was nothing to stop us taking that game. Mixon was solid. We're down on wide receiver, obviously. We're limited on who we have at wide receiver. It's easy to double up on Nico, but I thought after Hutch had a couple of early drops and Xavier Hutchinson, he kind of grew into the game and he made some pretty big catches. Mechie had a horror show the week before. He made some solid catches in traffic over the middle with some contested catches.
Yeah.
So we were able to lean on our slightly, maybe what would be classed as wide receiver 4 and 5 in this game to back up wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Schultz, I can see us moving on from Schultz. He made a couple of good catches, but his blocking was almost non-existent. He'd be lucky to chip his nails, let alone chip a defender coming in. It was like he just ghosted past them.
Yeah.
And that was what. And to tell you the truth, we were on about the 8 sacks. Now, sack numbers are easy to go up when you're forced into long ball game all the time. When you've got to make up a lot of yards in a short space of time. And I feel that Bobby Slowick's play design is sometimes it takes too long to develop. And that's what also leads to Stroud having to sit in the pocket.
Yeah.
On these long ball plays, and this leads to having 8 sacks. There's 2 in the last drive right at the end or something, So you've went from 6 to 8 in a matter of 2 plays. So it's easy for that number to be elevated.
Yeah. You mentioned your receivers. So looking at the 4 key receivers last night, so Collins, Schultz, Hutchinson and Mechie, averaged 16.2 yards, 15.8, 13 and 17.5. So you mentioned a lot of big plays, and you say you need to protect your quarterback. If that's the way you're going to play, you need to have the protection for your quarterback there as well. You mentioned they're moving on from Dalton Schultz, someone that he never got much last night. I noticed a few weeks ago that he's kind of started. Irv Smith Jr., do you think he's a decent replacement for Schultz, or do you think you're going to have to pick someone up?
I think there's probably going to have to be a pickup somewhere. I would rather have Brevin Jordan as tight end 1 if we can keep Brevin about. He offers a lot more. Cade Stover, I would have felt a lot more confident in the game if Stover was available. He went on IR through the week with a broken collarbone.
Right.
He definitely had, being the rookie, also having ties to Stroud, he'd have been the better option there, personally. But these are the things you have to overcome in these big games. And Gav said earlier, you've got to be perfect when you're in the playoffs. And we weren't perfect. I don't think that the Chiefs were perfect as well. And that was why this game was really there for the taking.
Yeah.
Apart from a couple busted coverages for Travis Kelce to go rumbling, they didn't really offer a lot the rest of the game. But they were key.
Kelce just does always seem to find himself open. It doesn't matter who he's playing. I still to this day don't know how Kelce gets as wide open as he does. It's just, I think he's got a magic power that the DBs just leave him alone. Considering he's probably the biggest threat that the Chiefs have got on offense. Gav, what's your kind of thoughts on this game, looking back on it now?
Yeah, I mean, as we said before about this whole thing where you really need to be perfect in the playoffs if you want to have a chance, particularly against a team like the Chiefs, who I think we've rightly said aren't firing all cylinders, but just have that way of winning. They have that aura, and I guess we've touched on already, but in that third phase of the game, special teams, there's a few things going on there. So obviously, I think Graham's obviously kind of talks about Fairbairn missing the kicks, but the Texans obviously gave up the big kick return on the opening kickoff, which to the credit of the Texans D, they actually stood up after that, forced a 3-and-out and kept Kansas City to a field goal. But again, when you want momentum and setting the tone in the playoffs, it's a bad place to start from. And I think where I mean, I'm certainly as guilty as anyone giving a lot of hate on the Chiefs, but one thing that they have done well throughout the season is on special teams. I think we remember the game against the Broncos where they blocked a potentially game-winning field goal, but they'd been basically just testing the kick protection all through that game. They knew where the weaknesses were, and it led to that. And they just feel that, again, with the Texans game, that was something that they were ready for. I know sometimes as a fan you watch field goals and you think like a block, it's a moment of magic. No, there's film study, there's practice that goes in to make these things happen. And I think that's one thing where you can say, yeah, I mean, I say Fairbairn didn't handle his kicks well, but certainly with that block in particular, there's a lot of prep work that came in for the Chiefs.
So Graham, I'll give you one last minute on your team before we move on. Ultimately, coming into this season, there was a lot of expectations on the Texans following last season. How would you sum up your whole season? And I'll give you 1 minute to sum up your season.
Okay, I would say it was a bit of a disappointment in some respects. You know, the way we were getting bigged up, it was like we were going to be the team in the Super Bowl this year on the AFC side. It didn't pan out that way. It's been the roller coaster of dealing with injuries, dealing with like subpar O-line play, and it really is. Let's get back in the lab this off-season, look at the weaknesses, depth, and really try and strengthen up on that. You know, improve. If we have to drop coaches, we'll have to drop coaches, but we'll have to show everyone that supports this team that they are willing to make whatever sacrifice needs to be done and put this team where it needs to be. And we can't have both teams from Texas allergic to this championship game.
I mean, even the college teams can't make it to the championship game. Never mind the NFL teams.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like someone has to find the cure, so why not us? But yeah, there needs to be There needs to be some big changes. Keep the core and bring back key free agents because the list is long.
Yeah. Excellent. No bother. So that sets us up for next weekend of the Commanders at the Eagles for the NFC and the Bills at the Chiefs for the AFC for the two championship games. Playing for Super Bowl. We will come back and have a chat about those games later in the show. So we'll move on. So today, we record this on a Monday. So today we dropped our latest in the series of our In Conversations with. Gav and Sarah last week had a chat with Team Italy's Ambra Marcucci, and she took us through her story like we do on a regular basis with our guests. So many great topics that were covered in that conversation, from her recovery from 3 major injuries, how she got into the sport, and how she continues to contribute to the sport on and off the field and inspiring other young girls within the sport across the world. So make sure you check it out, but only after you finish listening to this one. Don't stop listening to this to go and find that. Find it after you've listened to us first. So it's available on all podcast platforms, and the video episode is available on YouTube, so keep an eye on that. Okay, Gav, you mentioned at the start of the show, we get out, we actually seen some football this weekend. So me, you and Sarah and my daughter Emily, we came along, we went to watch Flagging New Year, which is a tournament that's held every year, organised by the GB flag head coach Alan Young. He organised this tournament in Scotland. So we were there for day one on Saturday. Some very competitive games were played. A lot of talent on show. With 24 teams there, with several of them travelling from Europe to take part. Holland with a team from France, a US Air Force team that are based in Germany. Try to get that right to make sure that we get them right round. But what did you make of the action we've seen Saturday?
Yeah, I think first of all, for me, one of the best things was actually just seeing the massive humanity all gathering in one place just to play flag. I mean, I've been lucky enough to play in a couple of international tournaments, but mostly in outdoor settings where it's spread over multiple fields and everyone can kind of breathe. But when you've basically got your 3 pitches basically across one full 11-a-side football park and everyone kind of in and around that, it was just a fantastic thing to see. Obviously, we know that flag football's really grown now that we had the announcement around the Olympics. And it's been a big weekend globally. It was a massive championship in the States happened at the same time. But I think seeing so many people coming together in Scotland, I mean, this tournament I think has been going since 2016 now. So it has become a regular fixture. And as you say, it does have that international appeal. But despite that, to see two British sides make the final, so obviously with the Glasgow Hornets, British national champions for 2024, but actually the first time winning this particular tournament. So they don't organise it, but it's essentially their home tournament in terms of locality. It's a great result for them, but actually we also had the British national team's development squads were also playing in this one. So the Silver Lions, one of their sides, actually made the final. And obviously we've got European Championships coming up in September. So, I think there's going to be a lot of competition for places, and that's exactly what Coach Young will want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I just love going out and watching. Like, obviously we watched the Hornets playing the game that we've seen there, but in terms of just being a neutral and just watching these people from all over Europe come and play the sport that we love. You say it literally was a massive humanity. Just so many people, obviously with 24 teams, but then you say a little 8 players per team, and then you've got all the coaches, all the fans, all the family. It was just a phenomenal day. The atmosphere was great in the place as well. It was buzzing. You always, every time you turned around, something else was happening on another field, so it was great to cover it. For those that haven't seen on social media, Saturday was also the debut of Tartan Touchdown's unique angle. As our drone caught some of the action inside Ravenscraig, there was a brilliant touchdown, which we have put up on social media. Again, you can check this out after you've listened to us, of Akil from the Silver Barbarians catching a phenomenal touchdown pass. We managed to catch that from overhead, so make sure you catch that out on the social media. And we have got more action from Drone Cam coming later this week, so keep an eye out for that. You mentioned, Gav, on Sunday, obviously you mentioned the Hornets playing the Silver Line, so the Hornets went on to win the championship for the whole weekend. Obviously then what they do at Flag and New Year's, they break it down, so when it gets to the group stages, once the group stage are finished, everyone still has something to play for because they've got 3 different brackets. Grangemouth Broncos, who had an all-Scottish final in the Barbarian bracket, but the Grangemouth Broncos defeated the Edinburgh Outlaws, and then in the Lowland bracket, the Salford Scorpions defeated the Victoria Panthers to win that as well. So congratulations to all those teams. I do want to point out, though, that the Hornets have had a 100% tournament winning record since Andrew Gibson and Nicky appeared on the Tartan Touchdown, Gav. We can take the credit for that. I do jest. The Hornets have had a phenomenal 12 months, like you mentioned. They're winning the UK National Championship for the first time at the tail end of the season, picking up the trophy yesterday. So they'll be hoping to add what is now the next tournament, which is organised by the same people, the Flag and Ironman tournament next month. So the Hornets are already gunning towards that as well. But it's shaping up to be a great first quarter of the year for flag football, Gav, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. Particularly if you are playing flag, is that there is no off season. You know, the women's season is well underway already. We're only not even 2 weeks, 2 months away, I should say, from British finals. And then obviously we'll be on to the mixed league kicking off in April, and then obviously get international tournaments later on. And you get the Euros for in September, but they've got the continental championships elsewhere. So I think the Americas ones usually start in July, and they've got another one for Asia and Oceania. So yeah, there's going to be a lot going on. Obviously, Ambra's a great example of someone from the Italian team that we've been speaking to, and others from the community that we'll be speaking to as the year goes on.
Yeah, we're also at the World Games in China. It's August as well, isn't it, as well? So that's a massive tournament that everybody's working towards as well. So, yeah, flag is well and truly developing. And Gav, you mentioned just at the start there about that the USA flag had their World Championships. It was taking part in Tampa this week. So we need to give them a massive congratulations because they actually became Guinness World Record holders over the weekend. So they broke the record for the world's largest flag football tournament. They had 6,868 players taking part in a tournament. You can see you shaking your head there. That's a ridiculous amount of number of players for a tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Just shows you how big it's gotten.
Yeah, I think there was something like 900 teams or something like that, Gav.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly sounds about right. And obviously, this is not just one single bracket. So obviously, you've got the mixed to the co-eds brackets, you've got the men's, you've got the females, you've got the youth tournaments, and then you've got different formats. So I was speaking to Izzy Garachi from Team USA that we've interviewed previously, and she was telling me about formats like Gauntlet, where essentially you're just constantly playing from halfway in. They had, I think, Air It Out's another format where it's passing only. There's no laterals. Then you've got some of the formats that we don't really see here. So you've got like screenplay, contact play, and so on. So yeah, I mean, they really mixed it up. But yeah, whatever format you like, yeah, there's people traveling from all over the world. I know that there was, I think, the Cheltenham Wayfinders were attending from the UK. Yeah, as I say, everyone's just going out there for that experience. And yeah, I think it's starting to get that recognition just on the national stage as well as international stage. So Tyreek Hill, obviously Dolphins receiver, was in attendance. CBS Sports were covering the final of some of the more prominent elite tournaments. So yeah, I think it's something that's absolutely going to grow. And yeah, it's just a really exciting time for the sport overall.
Yeah, we had the 2 UK teams. It was only flags and the Wayfinders were the 2 UK teams that go over. So that would have been a phenomenal experience for those teams to go over and see that. So Yeah, it was just a ridiculous. We thought there was a sea of humanity at Ravenscraig on Saturday. That would have been crazy over in Tampa for that amount of people playing flag football. So I think you mentioned as he was playing 7 different formats of 7 different teams or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely got at least one trophy with the Apex team, but yeah, I mean, she was just in a constant schedule for about 5 days straight, which I can't imagine doing. That's why she's a world champion, and we're podcasting.
And we will give her a shout out because it was one of the most high IQ touchdown catches I've ever seen in my life from her in one of the Apex games, where she basically was landing outside of the end zone and somehow managed to get her toe over the plane to break the plane and get a touchdown by just basically getting her toe over the line, even though the rest of her body was still in the field. So that was a phenomenal play to see as well. So excellent. So a lot of more flag stuff coming up with Tartan Touchdown. We will be covering. We'll be speaking to more people from the world of flag over the next coming months. We'll have the women's finals at in Ravenscraig, which we'll be getting involved with as well. So keep an eye on the social media for everything that's happening across the world of flag football with us over the next couple of months. Alrighty, let's move on. Yeah, well, I done it last night. I picked the Bills. Probably the only prediction that I got right against the kind of the grain this weekend, because everything else went against me, to be fair, because I picked the Rams because I can't back the Eagles. I didn't realistically think the Rams were going to do it, but I just can't back the Eagles, so it comes down to that. Same as last week, couldn't back the Eagles either, still won. Anyway, gents, let's move on to this weekend and we go back into the world of the NFL. So, NFL Conference Championship games this weekend. So first up, UK time, 8 PM kickoff on Sunday night, we have the Joe Schoen Bowl. So it's a running back that he let go versus the quarterback his son told him to draft. It's the Commanders versus the Eagles. And Gav, I'm going to borrow a phrase from Sarah that she gave me permission to use this. Does the Commanders' Cinderella story have a few chapters left in it, or are the Eagles stopping the happy ever after?
I mean, I think it could go either way. And we've seen the Commanders have already won. I think they actually won in Philly early in the season. But there's just something. I've said this before, and the Commanders prove me wrong, but I think there is an experience thing here that the Eagles are used to being in these playoff situations. They've got the home field advantage. Obviously, Washington's an East Coast team. They're not, the weather is not going to be a factor. But I just think that there's all these small things that tot up for me. You've got Saquon Barkley's going to be fired up for this. Obviously, we saw that when that game against the Rams last night got tight, the defense for Philly stood up, made some big plays, just found a way to establish some momentum. I think that the Commanders have got a really bright future as a franchise, but I think this is going to be an Eagles win, personally.
So, Graham, do you agree, disagree with Gavin? What's your reasoning? Give us your working.
Now, I don't know what it is, but watching this Commanders team, there just seems to be, it's a Cinderella story, but there seems to be a bit of magic around them. But it's been earned, and I just enjoy the way they play. They seem to go into anybody's house, and it doesn't matter, because they seem to be that team that doesn't really care what the other team's game plan is. Their game plan is all that matters. And who I've really enjoyed watching over the last couple of weeks of dipping into Commanders games? Austin Eckler. He seems to have had a new lease of life here. There seems to be, I just look at the Commanders as a team that's been patched together of people that you recognise and remember from other teams that did really well. And they just seem to have put them all together and so, you're all really good players. Now just go and show everyone what you can do together. And as hard as it will be to stop the Eagles, I just don't think Jalen Hurts looked that comfortable in that last game. He just, I don't know what it was. He seemed to get knocked about a little bit. And I think the Commanders will be buoyed by that. And these are two teams that obviously know each other inside out. You'll be well aware of that. The two of you guys will be well aware of that. So yeah, honestly, I'm going to stick with my Commanders on this. I'd really like to see them go all the way. Yeah, I just see them winning it.
Yeah. I think what obviously you imagine is earned. What I think has really worked for the Commanders this season is that Dan Quinn obviously went there as a head coach, but he raided the Cowboys. He took players that he knew, and they know his. I know Joe Witt is the defensive coordinator, but you've got to assume that there was some aspect of Dan Quinn's defensive mind in this team as well. That he took players that he knew could play his scheme, and he knew what they were as people and as players. And having that, I mean, going to a new coach, going to a team, you need to build that culture. He's taking guys with him that can help him build the culture, and he's got these guys. So you've got Tyler Biadasz at centre. He was excellent for the Cowboys. You on to the other side of the ball, so he took Lawrence Armstrong, Dante Fowler, who's on Noah Igbonahu, I can never say his name. He took those players for the Cowboys, and they know the culture that he wants to. So that gave him a head start already. And he's like I said earlier on, he had them fired up for last week. He's going to have them fired up for this week as well. As a divisional game as well. When you said, Gav, they beat the Eagles the last time they played, so I think this is up there for any. I think the Eagles Eagles went right under the radar this year. The Eagles went back to their just doing enough thing, and it's working again for them. But the Eagles haven't impressed me this season. I know Bartley's been the standout, but as an overall team, they haven't massively impressed me this season. I'm going to side. Well, I did mention earlier on that I can't back the Eagles, but just being sensible for a wee second, that I do think the Commanders can go in there and win this game. I just think what the Commanders have got is they've got nothing to lose. There's no expectation on at the weekend, and look what happened. Going into this game, the expectation might be a wee bit higher now because of what they've done with the Lions, but this is a free hit for the Commanders. The Commanders lose this. Everybody applauds them and says, that was a brilliant season, well done. Let's see what you can do next season. If they win this, then they get. I don't think there's a negative outcome for the Commanders here. Realistically, obviously, getting to the championship game, losing that would be negative. But no matter what the Commanders do for the rest of this season, now this season's been a success for them. So it's a free hit for them. They can do what they want. You've mentioned they're playing with house money here. They've got nothing to lose, and I think that no fear attitude will help them win this game. And I think it could be an interesting game. Like you said, Gav, the weather shouldn't impact Commanders. It might impact on the game itself in terms of if it goes to a run game, you're going to have Bartley going a lot of the snaps, which you probably would anyway. But yeah, I'm going to put my house money on the Commanders this weekend as well. I'm going to go with the Commanders to win this one, not just because I can't back the Eagles, but I genuinely do think that the Commanders will win this game. I think they've got a good chance of winning it. Right, next on, we'll flip over. So we'll get the AFC game. So another huge Chiefs against the Bills matchup. With how many of them have we had over the last couple of years, it just seems to become the norm now. It's the Chiefs or the Bills. So game, your Tech beat the Bills back in October, but then you since then lost to the Chiefs twice. Obviously, we talked about last weekend. Where do you see this game being won and lost?
First of all, I'm going to put my stall out early on this. I just want the Bills to win. Right? And it's not a deep hatred for the Chiefs on that. It's just I don't think the Chiefs have been particularly good. I know they had the best record, but I don't think they've been a particularly good team this year. Where the Bills have been, like they started off really bad. Like they lost to us in a game that Josh Allen would probably want to forget. It was probably one of the worst games he's ever had. But look how they regrouped after that, and look what they've done since. This unit looked very solid last week on both sides of the ball. They know it's at stake, and this is them being able to stamp their ticket to the dance again. And look at all that years that they made it back to back and never really won it. What better a chance have the Bills had in the last couple of years to do it than what they're doing just now, going in against a Chiefs team that isn't really performing very well. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes have had great battles over the years. And Josh Allen, on the most part, is one of that players who seems to be able to get under the Chiefs' skin. So if they play as aggressive as they did against the Baltimore Ravens, and you have to play aggressive against this Chiefs team, we almost managed to do it. You have to keep Mahomes in front of you, and you can't let him get outside that pocket and start doing Mahomes things. But another thing that we did very well but couldn't really capitalise on is one of our drives lasted 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You have to keep them off the field. And I think that the way the Bills are set up this year, they're very good at extending drives. Like, they will take that chance on like a 4th and short with Allen, with a designed Allen play, to get it over that yard and then take some more time off the clock. And then more often than not, these guys are going to punch it in for a TD at the end of these drives, the way the back end of the season's gone. And if you can consistently do that against this Chiefs team, they can't hurt you the same. Yeah. So I don't think they're as quick hitting as they have been in multiple seasons.
Yeah, that's something I did notice with the Ravens and Chiefs, the Ravens and Bills game. Sorry, that the Ravens were getting off the field very quickly, whereas the Bills were just taking their time, being methodical. They had a game plan, and I think that's the thing when you have a very high-powered offense like the Ravens normally have, is they don't really build long drives. Somebody's going to pull up a stat now and completely prove me wrong here, but I mean, is you're going to get a big run from Derrick Henry or a big run from Lamar, you're going to get a pass down to Likely or Andrews, and they don't seem to take as much time on the ball as they normally. But I did look at the possession. Both teams had pretty much equal amount of possession time-wise in the game last night, but the Bills to me just felt like they were just being methodical, just taking their time. There was never any panic, like you said. Gets to 4th and short. It's fine, we know what we're doing here. It's never a case of, the Bills are 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. What are they going to do here? The Bills don't even need to think about it. They know when they get to that position, they're going for it. There's no, let's take a time out, let's think about it. It's in their mind that no matter what, they're going for it. Unless maybe it's in their own half, which maybe, but if they're in the opposition's half, they're going for it every time, and majority of the time they're getting it as well. So it's just having that confidence that for the Bills, when they're in the opposition's half, the 4th down is just another down. It's not let's think about what we have to do here. It's like, well, we're going for it. So yeah, like that, keeping Mahomes off the field obviously is going to make a massive difference to the Bills. That's what they're going to have to do. But Gav, do you agree, disagree with Graham's thoughts here?
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that we're probably going to be all in the same house in this one. But I went with my head last week and said I thought the Ravens were going to top the Bills. I genuinely do want to see the Bills win this. I think more so now with the Lions going out, that I think that the Bills are the team that I think a lot of people as neutrals are rooting for, and I'm absolutely one of them. I think Josh Allen has been one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the league for years, and probably hasn't had his flowers in the playoffs. Obviously, I think people recognise what he can do, but just in terms of getting to that big, prestigious moment, he's not had that. And I just think that we've already seen it in the regular season, and it has happened before. I think it happened last season, in fact, that the Bills got past the Chiefs in the regular season, lost in the divisionals. But I just think that, there's that memory that you build up from that experience, that there's going to be enough to see them through. Obviously, we saw that I think the Texans were able to do a lot of the things that are required to beat the Chiefs. They protected the ball. They were able to stay in long drives. I mean, Graham, you obviously talked about what the Bills can do. The Texans, I think, took 10 minutes off the clock at the start of the second half on Saturday night. So I think you can see that there's a recipe there that if you can stay patient, if you can go through the plays, you've got to bear in mind as well that I think the Chiefs against the Texans, they did have, I guess, a bit of a bend but don't break mentality. We'll give you everything between these, but we're going to tighten up the closer you get to the goal line. But I think we've seen that this is where the Bills can kick it up a notch. They are effective. They are clinical. Even if it takes them 4 downs to do it, they know how to punch the ball in. So, yeah, I think this is finally the one where the Bills go over the hump.
Yeah, and Graham stole my justification, but I'll just reiterate, if the Bills can be as aggressive on defence as they were against the Ravens, then I don't know how the Chiefs can sustain that and protect Mahomes as well as they can. And Kelsey's not going to get the space across the middle that he's used to getting. And also the Bills O-line won't give up as much space to that Chiefs D-line as the Texans unfortunately did at the weekend. So yeah, all in the Bills here again, so let's see how this one plays out. Alright, time to wrap things up, folks. So before we say goodbye, please check out our Instagram for all the latest content that we're putting out and what we've got coming up. And we are available on all your podcast platforms and YouTube for the video episodes if you want to see all our ugly mugs. You can check out our previous episodes and the conversations we've had with great people across this sport. Graham, thank you for joining us for episode 3. It's been a pleasure working with you again.
No, thank you. It's good talking to you guys again. It's been a bit of a while, but let's hope it's not as long till the next time.
Definitely not. Gav, great to team up again after you and Sarah smashed it as a duo last week.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. Good to be talking ball, and hopefully the predictions hold up. We'll see what happens. It's going to be an exciting week.
I didn't really want to say this, but I'm going to say it right at the very end. Sarah won the predictions for the divisional round, so we can't let that happen. I think it was 3-2-2. I think me and you both got 2 right, Gav, didn't we? We both got the Chiefs,
Yeah, I
and
get two.
you get the Chiefs and the Eagles. I get the Chiefs and the Bills. Sarah get the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Bills. So, Sarah, have your flowers. You won the divisional predictions. So, we'll see what happens this weekend. For everybody that's watching and listening, thank you very much for tuning in to Tartan Touchdown episode 3. Until next time, we'll see you soon.